Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who picked Holly Holm to defeat Amanda Nunes. And I'm here to talk about Ariane Lipski versus Melissa Gatto. Ariane Lipski is 15-8 as a pro, 29 years old, and she's got 1 inch of height but giving up 2 inches of reach to 27-year-old Melissa Gatto, who is 8-1 as a pro. Melissa Gatto, she's got 6 finishes in her 8 wins, 2 by TKO, both of them in the UFC, of course, and 4 submissions, and just 2 decisions as well. She's got that 1 loss to Tracy Cortez in the UFC. It was a fight in which she was out-grappled, out-wrestled, and out-grappled. Tracy Cortez is an incredible wrestler, an incredible grappler, and just at this point I want to say she's underrated because she's been out of it for so long, but she'll be back. But Melissa Gatto, she's looked awesome in victory. She's gotten big wins over Sijara Eubanks, stabbed her in the body with a front kick. A beautiful finish in round 3. She beat up Victoria Leonardo, but then broke her arm, so that's what stopped that fight. But she was certainly on her way to a victory there. And she Kimura'd Carol Hosa, who's also on this card as well. She Kimura'd her before she got to the UFC. Before either girl got to the UFC, obviously. The thing with Melissa Gatto is she's really good everywhere, especially on her back, and the fact that she's really good off her back is probably her biggest weakness as a fighter. She can be caught on her back, as she was against Tracy Cortez. I think that's not where she wants to be in MMA. She's got to develop her game, especially in this fight against Lipski, where she's on top. Because not only is that where everybody who's finished Lipski has been, aside from Priscilla Cachoeira, but it's also where you just want to be in MMA, because MMA has strikes and gravity favors the person on top. But Melissa Gatto, yeah, that's her weakness. She's definitely a girl that's too content to fight off her back. She had this other fight that was a draw against this girl, Saidi Rocha, and it wasn't a draw. She lost that fight. She conceded top position, and she lost that fight. That was a fight in which she was just... it was similar to the Tracy Cortez fight, although obviously it wasn't exactly the same, but she spent the majority of the fight on her back, and just she lost that one, was lucky to walk away with a draw in my opinion. But it does add some more context, and it does reinforce the fact, or the notion, that that's her weakness, the fact that she is too comfortable fighting off her back. Ariane Lipski, she's got a record of 15-8, 6 TKO victories, 3 submissions, and 6 decisions. She is the queen of violence, as she was known before she got to the UFC, because she is a violent fighter. Really violent on the feet, and as we saw against Luana Carolina, she can be a violent submission artist as well. And actually, she's only got 3 subs. One of them's over Luana Carolina. The other one, or another one, is over Diana Belbita, who she armbarred from her guard. So she's beaten 2 current UFC fighters with submissions. So despite her not having the most submissions to her record, it's been good enough to get her 2 valuable wins. Her 6 losses come 4 by TKO, 4 by decision. And that's where she's been put on her back. Priscilla Cachoeira is the one girl that knocked her out standing. That was just a bad matchup. Lipski wanted to be on the feet, the violence queen, and she's going against Wanderlei Silva. And that's who Priscilla Cachoeira is, and she cracked her and sat her down. But the other losses in which she was finished, as we saw 2 of them in the UFC, she's been mauled on the ground. Montana De La Rosa and Antonina Shevchenko, who is not the best grappler. But Montana De La Rosa is. Maybe she's not the best grappler, but she's a very good grappler. But still, Lipski, that loss to Shevchenko was eye-opening, and they both looked the same. She was TKO'd in round 2 on the ground, couldn't move. Definitely her primary weakness. It's not to say she's a total fish out of water on the ground. Again, she armbarred Belbita from the guard, and we've seen her taken down in plenty of her UFC fights. Joanne Calderwood had her down in round 1, had her back. And Molly McCann got her down. She's, not a fish out of water, but it's definitely her weakest area. Ariane Lipski is coming off a big win over J.J. Aldrich, in which she was a pretty big underdog, and she dominated J.J. Aldrich. But I do think that was a potentially favorable stylistic matchup of all the girls that would be favored against her anyway. That was definitely one of the more favorable matchups because J.J. Aldrich is anything but a grappler. You know, she's a striker pretty much. You know, again, she's kind of like Lipski, but she's not a fish out of water, but she wants to be standing, and she wasn't able to get that to the ground even if she wanted to. So it was very much Lipski's fight, and Lipski looked incredible there. She's gotten some other wins in the UFC. Mandy Bohm, Luana Carolina, of course. Isabella de Padua. She beat her early on. And before she got to the UFC, she beat Silvana Gomez Juarez, who I think is out of the UFC now, but she beat her by 5-round decision, which always bodes well for any fighter, going 5 rounds in victory. But here, I think Melissa Gatto should win this fight. There's a chance Lipski is able to keep this fight standing, in that case, I think she's in the realm of winning. You know, it's not to say she's totally going to win the stand-up battle, but I think if these two girls are kickboxing, I would favor Lipski. Lipski's the taller fighter. She's giving up 2 inches of reach, of course, but she's the taller fighter. I think she's the more physical fighter as well. She's, very strong. And I'd hate to mention this, but in the event of a close decision, you got to kind of favor the hot girl, no? I know that's who I'd give the nod to. It was even, so I'll go to the one that I'd rather fuck. Yeah, she won. That'd be my scorecard. So I'm just saying that's something you have to look to. She is one of the hottest girls in MMA, probably the hottest, but whatever. But as far as the fight goes, without hotness being a thing, that's the kind of fucking analysis you get here. Melissa Gatto should win. I don't think Melissa Gatto is going to be overwhelmed on the feet. I do think Lipski would be better, but Melissa Gatto, as she's proven in the UFC, she can throw down. Again, her 2 TKO victories come in the UFC. And but on the ground is where Melissa Gatto can thrive here, especially if she's able to get on top of Lipski. Despite Gatto being, maybe even more comfortable off her back, Lipski is much more uncomfortable on her back. So if Gatto's able to get her down, I think with her overall grappling prowess, she can make Lipski pay and follow that blueprint of Montana De La Rosa and Antonina Shevchenko, the grappler, and TKO her. Of course, submission would be much more likely for Melissa Gatto, but Lipski's never lost by submission. She's only lost by TKO. So some fighters just, they have that submission defense, and it shows itself in the record. But I'm picking Melissa Gatto to win. I do think if she does win, it would be similar to those fights where she could get her out of there from the top position. But I'm probably just going to bet on Ariane Lipski, because I do think if Lipski's able to keep this fight standing, she can beat up Melissa Gatto. Gatto's looked tough in defeat, never been finished, but so I would go with decision. I'll wait till the prop bet's open. I'll play Lipski by decision. That's pretty much the play. I will sprinkle something on Gatto by a 2nd and 3rd round finish, because I think if she gets Lipski tied and makes it a grappling battle, she can get her out of there. But it's not something I'm married to, because again, Gatto's never been Mrs. Top Game. So that's how I see the fight. I will favor Gatto in the prediction, but my bets will be all over the place. Like, share, subscribe, all that horseshit. Check out my other videos.